Hello everyone, my name is Julia Hussien and I am presenting today on behalf of my research team that was involved in testing the benefits of expecting to teach. Within the field of cognitive psychology, several researchers reported that the expectation to teach enhanced their learners' declarative knowledge. These findings sparked the interest of Dow and colleagues, and through several experiments of their own, found that expecting to teach a golf putting skill enhanced not only their learners' declarative knowledge of the skill, but also their procedural knowledge. So that is, their physical performance of the golf putt was also better. Currently, these findings have only been produced by Dow and colleagues, and the mechanisms they have explored have not readily explained why expecting to teach produces learning benefits. As such, our primary purpose was to replicate Dow and colleagues' expecting to teach findings within a different laboratory. Additionally, the mechanisms explored by Dow and colleagues focused on encoding processes that occurred during the acquisition phase. However, it is instead possible that the mechanism lies within the consolidation or retrieval processes in motor memory, so that is during the retention interval or during the post-test phase. Therefore, our secondary purpose was to explore these processes as possible mechanisms. The conceptualization of this experiment actually began at a previous NASPSPA conference with the original authors of this paper, back when human contact was still legal, of course. Our team worked with them over a period of time to clarify procedural details, and we were graciously provided with the original instructions and materials from their experiment. Some minor modifications, however, were made to the protocol to ease data collection and to ensure consistency across multiple testers. Once these modifications were approved by the original authors, the final protocol and plan analyses were pre-registered. Although originally we were planning on a larger sample size, COVID led to difficulties, and so a total of 76 adults participated in our experiment. They were randomly assigned into either an expecting to teach or an expecting to be tested group. The task itself consisted of the same golf putting task as that by Dow and colleagues, where learners putt from the white starting line on the left to the white target on the right. Day one of data collection started with collecting participants' demographic information. Next, participants completed a 10-trial pre-test while wearing both a blindfold and noise-canceling headphones. Baseline motivation was then measured through the use of the intrinsic motivation inventory, also known as the IMI. And then instructions were given to differentiate the two groups. So the teach group was told that they would be provided with study and practice time so that they could teach someone how to perform the putt the next day, whereas the test group was told that they would be tested on the golf putt the next day. Groups were then given 2 minutes to study a booklet with instructions and images on how to perform the golf putt, and this was followed by 50 putts of physical practice with sensory feedback available to them. After each block of 10 putts, they were given a 1-minute break to either rest or continue studying the instruction booklet. After those 50 trials, they were then given the opportunity to practice up to an additional 50 putts or to continue studying the instruction booklet. Once they chose to end practice, they again completed the IMI, and then finally they were reminded of their instructions for either teaching or being tested on the next day. All participants were asked not to physically practice the golf putt or to study or watch videos on how to perform a golf putt. When participants in the expecting to teach group arrived for day 2, they were falsely informed that the student they were meant to teach didn't show up. They were then asked if they wouldn't mind being tested instead so as not to waste their data from day 1, and all participants agreed. In a counterbalanced order, participants then performed 10 trial retention and transfer tests, the transfer test consisting of a golf putt that was 50 centimeters longer. And like the pretest, some sensory feedback was again included during these trials. Next, their declarative knowledge was assessed by asking them to recall all instructions related on how to perform the golf putt. And finally, participants answered survey questions related to their thought processes since practice on day 1 and during testing on day 2. For the replication component of the experiment, our focus here will be on radial error and free recall due to some issues we had with measurements related to bivariate variable error. As shown here, no differences were obtained between the two groups for these measures. For our extension of the experiment, the only finding of interest was that more individuals in the expecting to teach group engaged in visualization, by either visualizing themselves performing the golf putt or visualizing the images from the instruction booklet. They reported engaging in these visualizations for longer than individuals in the expecting to test group. Not surprisingly, we also found that more individuals in the expecting to teach group engaged in thoughts about how to teach the golf putt to somebody else. They engaged in more of these thoughts than their counterparts and for longer periods of time. So this can basically be seen as a good manipulation check of our instructions. In conclusion, with regard to our primary purpose, we failed to replicate the expecting to teach benefit for both physical performance and free recall. Now, while the results of the survey suggest possible differences in both visualization and thoughts about how to teach the golf putt, these did not actually result in differences in learning. Consequently, we need more data before we can make recommendations to practitioners about using expectations to teach for learning advantages. Thank you all for your time, and if interested, further details about this experiment can be found at the preprint accessed through the Google Drive link provided below. Thank you very much.